There we go. Got to the end of the cut okay, and that's a decent finish, is that? So I'm pleased with that. The fly cutter is coping well. The machine sounds comfortable. There's no ugly clacking and banging going on from the gearbox, which is what I was concerned about, especially on the thinner section. So we'll get that out of the vise, deburr it, and then we'll flip it over, and then we'll finish the thickness. Now, what I have done, is the cutter that came with the mill, which is this thing, for want of a better word. It's an Asian thing. I've modified this now, so I've drilled this out in the back, and I've put an M16 thread in it, so that will fit now in the spindle. I'm just curious more than anything. I'm pleased with the fly cutter. I know I can do the rest of the job with the fly cutter. I might need to keep just touching the edge up on the tool, but that's fine. It's easy done. I've looked at the tool, by the way, and after that cut there, the chips coming off are blue. So you know the swarf coming off that is blue. So I don't want to start pushing it any harder than I am doing speed wise, because I think it'll just take the edge off the tool fairly quickly. I might be able to go a little bit more aggressive in terms of cut depth. I might be able to go for sort of 20 thou deep rather than 10. But what I'll do is I'm going to turn it over, and just for, well, giggles more than anything, I'm going to put this in and just see how it performs in a cut on the other side, not only for the cutter but also for the mill, see whether the mill likes it or not. So we'll do that for out of interest, and then if this is good, we'll carry on with it, because obviously it's going to be far quicker removing the material with 5 edges than it is with 1. I don't think that's big enough to span. It is just about big enough to span the widest width, so I could use that for the whole thing actually, and that was always my sort of back pocket option if this didn't work, but if the fly cutter didn't work. But we'll turn it over, we'll deburr it, and we'll have a bit of a play, and we'll see how we get on with it. Right guys, I'm back. So I'm bringing this down to size now. So the fly cut side that you saw me do is on the bottom, and I'm just bringing the top down to finish size. The fly cutter was doing the job, but incredibly slowly. As you saw, it's not the quickest of things. I need to be going really slow with it. I did try going to the next speed range up, which I think I was cutting at 280, and I think I went up to 540, which is the next speed up, and it just burnt out within seconds. It's not geared up for that. So what I have done, when I first flipped it over, I tried what I'm calling the 3C cutter, which is the Chinese comedy cutter, and as I suspected, when I put it in the spindle, it's running out radially about 30 thou, 3/4 of a millimetre, that sort of thing, and actually about 20 thou. So there's only one insert that's ever doing any work, so it's kind of a fly cutter in itself. And with a 10 thou cut, which is the same as you saw me do with a fly cutter that I've made, within literally, I don't know, 20 millimetres worth of cut, it just the tip was absolutely shot, and I wasn't overcooking it. I think I was running at 540 RPM, which is fairly slow for carbide really. So yeah, as I suspected, there's only one place this thing's destined for, and I've looked at it to see if I could try and make anything else out of it. I might hang on to it and just chuck it in the scrap bin, and who knows, I might be able to make something to put a clock into or something one day. So I'll keep hold of it, because it has got a Morse taper 4 taper with an M16 in the back. I don't know how good this Morse taper 4 is, and I don't know whether that's contributing to some of the run out or not. don't really know. I didn't really do any investigation on that, so that's going away for now. What I have been doing, because the fly cutter is, you know, incredibly slow, I've actually been using a solid carbide M-mill, 14mm diameter, and that's working really well. So I'm taking sort of 1mm depth to cut with that in 01, and it's fine. I've mixed myself up some coolant, which I'm using rather than painting oil on everything and filling the place with smoke. So that's going well. I bought some bottles with a fine needle applicator, and they're really good. You can just keep just the right amount of coolant on without it going everywhere and without you having a big mess to clean up. So yeah, if anybody else, what I'll try and do, if I remember, I'll put a link in the comments or in the description, sorry, to where I got these from, because they, you know, really are good. So I've about half a thou taper from one end to the other, which is acceptable. This is an open limit dimension anyway, unimportant. I've got about 4 thou left to come off. I've reground the fly cutter edge, and I've put a slightly bigger radius on it so that it hopefully copes a bit better, and I've stoned that. So we're just going to take the finished pass 4 thou deep. So I'll bring you back in a moment when I've disposed of the 3Cs. There we go, not the fastest thing in the world, guys, but nice and controlled, and not knocking 10 bells out of the machine either, and the finish is absolutely cracking. I'll just bring it back a little bit, see if you can see that. And then we'll just have a quick measure up and see where we are for size. But hopefully that should be us on finished size there now. That's that's lovely. There's no pick up, there's no roughness. Yeah, that's going really well. It is taking a back cut, a tiny back cut. You always get that with a fly cutter, and it's normally symptomatic of whether the head's trammed and in alignment properly. I know this head's as good as I can get it without spending lots and lots of time on it. So it is only literally scratching it on the way back past on the back cut, but what that has done as well with a bigger radius on the tool, it's left it's dull, but it's a dull finish, but it's very, very good, very smooth. So I'm pleased with that. Just get some measurement gear. Look at the whiteboard, and we're heading for 2.88. Let's see what we've got. 2.8798, so a couple of tenths out. This end will be a bit less than that because I do have a bit of a taper, so I'm probably going to be about 2.8, 78.5. So it's within a thou within a thou and a half of finish size that end, and within a couple of tenths that end. We'll just measure this first end again. It's got a bit more taper on than I measured earlier. No, that's more like it. Yeah, I've gone a bit undersized, so 2.8792. 2.8792 that end, and 2.8782. So there's a thou taper over, that's 7.5 inches. So pretty good, pleased with that. Right, okay, we'll get that out of the vise, get the file over it, take the sharp edges off, and then we'll start setting up for machining this way. There's only about 20 thou to come off this way. I was thinking of leaving it at full thickness because it's only 20 thou away from the original, and it really doesn't matter what that dimension is, but for the fact all of my calculations that I've already been through on the whiteboard are dependent on me hitting this size and controlling it very tightly. So if I was going to leave this at the ground dimensions, if I'd have given this some thought and done the calculations around this ground thickness, I wouldn't have had to touch that dimension at all. I could have left it as ground stock. Anyway, either way, you live and learn. So we'll take this out, deburr it, bring it back, we'll set it back up for the cut to take the thickness down to size. Alright guys, we've deburred that now. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the face we've just machined with a fly cutter. It's very nice. So clean the vise out. I've cleaned all this up, so we're ready to. I've put a couple of parallels in the vise, so we're going to set this up now to machine the thickness down. Now I know, because of the way I've machined this, I know this is all square, so this hopefully should locate very nicely within the limits of the vice's capability anyway. Down on that parallel. Yeah, it's down on both, so that's good. Just lifting that back jaw slightly. That's got it. That's good. Right, we'll just have a quick measure up. So we're aiming for 1.227, and currently this is 1.252. So there's exactly 25 thou to come off. Yeah, 252. Now, do I attempt to take 25 thou off with this, or do I switch it back over for the end mill and blast the? I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to switch this back out for the 14mm end mill. It will be quicker to whip 20 thou off this face using that than it will to take 2 or 3 cuts across with this, and then we'll preserve the edge then on this. I'll just give it a quick stone, then we'll come back and we'll take the final 5 thou pass all the way across using the fly cutter. So I'll just set back up for that now. Right, we've got the 14mm end mill back in, so we're just going to touch off. I've got 25 thou in total to come off, so I'm going to aim for about between 18 and 20 thou with this, leaving myself a 5-6 thou finished pass with the fly cutter. Right guys, we're back. We've got the fly cutter back in, we're set up, just ready to touch off, and I've got 8 thou left to come off this face. So we'll put an 8 thou cut on. I've re-stoned the high speed steel bit, you know, just to make sure it's nice and keen, and hopefully it'll survive, because this is going to be taking almost twice the material it was taking when it was doing the ends, if not a bit more. So well, hopefully it'll last the full length of the cut. We'll make sure it keeps cool with some coolant and see how we get on. I'm really pleased with that fly cutter, guys. That's working really well. It's not the fastest thing in town, but it's doing a really good job. Yeah, it's nice. Right, guys, we've got that finished to size now. We're sort of plus or minus half a thou one end to the other, so I've got about a thou taper. So we're 1.226.5 one end and 1.227.5, 7, 8, something like that at this end. So happy with that. So what I've done is I've deburred this front edge completely, so there's no burrs on the front there, and we're now going to break out the good stuff. So I've got a Starrett edge finder in its original box, so we're going to set that up in the mill now in the spindle, and that's got a 6mm end on. We're going to touch off the front face and find the centre of our block. I'll just get the spanner and we'll tighten that in the spindle. We'll speed things up a little bit from the fly cutter. Make sure the edge is clean. pick the centre of the vice just in case there is any error. Hopefully it's half then. So we're on 0 there now. So if we wind over 3mm, that's 2.5, that's 3. We'll reset the 0 at that point. So we're now right on the edge of the block. And the block is, just double check it with the micrometer. Actually no I won't, I've got a burr on that edge, I better do it at the end. .879, yeah, I thought it moved the first time. Right, 2.879. This is where it's going to get a bit tricky because I'm dealing with metric and imperial now. I'm just going to go off camera, do a bit of calculation, and then I'll come back as we're setting up to start hogging out the T-slot. Alright guys, I'm centre now of the block. I'll put my end mill back in. This is where I could really do with a ripper, some kind of ripper end mill, but I've got nothing in that sort of range. So this one here was cutting really well earlier, so I'm going to hog the meat out using this one. It will take a little bit longer, but it's cutting nicely, so I'm going to persevere with it. So that's a 13mm diameter end mill, and I've written that on the back of the vise here. And I've also written my centre line value from this front edge on the vise. I've zeroed off in the y-axis. The y-axis is locked off. I've brought the head right down again. Head's locked off. So we're now going to start putting in. I need to put in an inch wide slot here that's 0.440 deep. So inch wide by almost ½ inch deep slot through the centre. So that's what we're going to do next. pleased with that, guys. That's I've tightened things up on the mill a little bit. I don't know, when I was doing the fly cutter, you probably heard, if you watch those videos, the mill was squealing quite a bit. So I've tightened all the gibs up slightly and just gone back over it, and that seems very happy. I mean, that's I think that was about 100 thou deep cut, 13mm wide in 01, and the mill's, it sounds happy at that, it sounds comfortable. So I'm going to mix some more juice up, and then I'll bring you back when we're down at full depth, as I'm then starting to pitch out. So another 3 or 4 cuts like that, and that will get me down to depth. So it's not going to take too long hogging that out, I don't think. I'll bring you back once we've got a bit more material removed. Right guys, we're at the next operation, which is putting the T-slot in. I've got the T-slot cutter loaded up. It's 4mm thick. The difference that I need to, the slot I need to put in height wise is 4.826 in millimeters. So I'm going to need to do 2 passes at least, height wise anyway, down each side. And the distance that I need to pitch in is 3.5, nearly 3.6 millimeters each way. Now for that tiny little cutter in 01 steel, if I go for a full cut at 3.5mm deep, I don't think that cutter's going to take that, if I'm honest. So I'm going to need to pitch across probably at least 2 cuts. We'll try it and see how it goes. So there's at least 4 passes down each side to do. What I'm going to do is the upper pass first, and the reason for that is if I do the lower pass first, the lower pass is going to be level with this floor that's already in the slot, and there's going to be swarf trying to get trapped underneath the T-slot cutter. So if I do the upper pass first, that gets rid of the bulk of the material and swarf out the way, and then when I do the lower pass where the bottom of the cutter is touching the bottom of the slot, I'm only taking 0.8 of a millimetre, so I don't know whether that's going to work or not. So to set the height for the upper pass, bearing in mind I've got no DRO or anything else, the difference is 0.826 of a millimetre, which in imperial is 25 plus 8, 33 thou. I think it's 32.5 thou, but I'm going to go for 33 thou. So what I'm going to do, I've got 33 thou feeder gauges now. I'm going to bring the cutter down so I can just get a feel on there for the height. So I've just got a feel on there now. So that's the top height of the pass. What I need to do now is touch off, we'll go for this wall first, so we'll touch off the side, we'll come out of the slot, we'll wind on half of 3.5mm, so 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, something like that, and then we'll give it a shot. I've got to be honest, of the whole load of machining I need to do, I'm the most apprehensive about this bit with this tiny little cutter, but we'll see how we get on. I'm going to be running incredibly slowly. I've currently got it set to 170 RPM, and we'll give it a try at that. Just touched off, conveniently on 0. 1.55, 1.75. too slow. I'm fearful of burning this out. I'm wondering whether to just go double the depth and take it really steady rather than push this thing through there 4 times. If I push it through twice on each side at double the depth, it seems to be coping quite well at that depth, which is 1.75 deep. I'm tempted to, I'm gonna have a think about that. I'm probably going to try it at double the depth. We'll give it a quick try. I'll do that off camera, and I'll bring you back when I eventually get to this other end, which will probably be in a couple of days' time. Right guys, we've got the first side done. I've had to do a bit of playing around with speeds and depths of cut, and to be totally honest, it never sounded happy no matter what I was doing, but I think I found probably as good as I'm going to get. So I'm going 1/2 mil depths of cut now, to get rid of the majority of the material. I'm now running at 540 RPM and I'm drenching it in coolant because I'm obviously running much faster surface speed now, so there's the risk of burning it out. So I've got the first side done completely. It still feels keenish, the cutter, but not as keen as it was when it was brand new. I don't know whether it's going to last out the second side. There's only one way to find out, and that's to go for it. So I've got set up exactly the same, set up on the feeder gauges as before for the higher cut, and I've touched off and dialed in the first 1/2 mil of cut. So I'll film that so that you can see me running at the sort of optimal, if you want to call it that, parameters. What I'm finding is it's picking up little bits of swarf all the time as it's going through, and every time it picks one up and it drags it past the cutter, it's like clonking and banging, and I just keep waiting for the cutter to break because it is quite delicate. But we're halfway there, so I'll have a go at this first pass on camera, and then I'll do the rest off camera and bring you back once we've got the slot milling complete, hopefully. So there you go, that's pass number 1, so that's the first half a mil out, only another 3mm to go, so another 6 of those, and then pitch down and take the finished cut, the finished cut, which is 0.8 of a millimetre. I took that just in one pass to clean the bottom out last time, and again it didn't sound much different from what you just heard. It was grumbling a bit, but it coped. So I'll bring you back when I've hopefully, if the cutter lasts out, completed the slot milling.